No one expected the richest man in the city to walk into the hospital that rainy morning with anger in his heart instead of kindness. His expensive shoes echoed through the silent hallway as frightened employees hurried to straighten their uniforms. Rumors spread faster than the sound of his footsteps because everyone believed he had come to expose corruption, fire careless managers, and make life even harder for those already struggling. But everything changed the moment he turned a quiet corner and witnessed a scene that no amount of money could ever buy. A respected doctor was sitting on the cold hospital floor beside a frail elderly woman, both of them crying together. There were no cameras, no applause, no audience, and no reason to pretend. That single moment shattered the CEO's carefully built walls and quietly began a journey that would transform not only his life but the lives of thousands of strangers forever. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who still believes kindness can change lives, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks if you believe compassion, forgiveness, and second chances still matter in today's world. Your support helps more heart-touching stories reach people who need hope the most. Nathan Cole was only 45 years old, yet the weight of an entire business empire rested on his shoulders every waking moment. Newspapers admired his success, business magazines called him a genius, and investors trusted every decision he made. His company owned hospitals, research centers, pharmacies, and charitable foundations across the country. To the public, he represented excellence and discipline. Behind closed doors, however, Nathan had become a lonely man who measured everything with numbers. Every expense needed justification. Every employee had to produce results. Every hospital under his company was expected to meet impossible financial targets. He believed emotions distracted people from efficiency because years earlier he had lost the love of his life after choosing work over family. Since then, he buried every feeling beneath meetings, contracts, and endless responsibilities. One morning his executive assistant handed him a confidential financial report showing that one of his oldest hospitals had unusually high operating costs despite treating many patients who could not afford expensive care. Several board members insisted that resources were being wasted. They suggested reducing staff, closing community outreach programs, and replacing compassionate but unproductive employees with cheaper alternatives. Nathan decided to inspect the hospital personally without announcing his arrival. He wanted facts instead of prepared presentations. The hospital itself was far different from the luxury medical centers carrying his company's name. The building showed signs of age. The paint had faded, the waiting rooms were crowded, and many families had clearly spent sleepless nights beside loved ones. Yet something about the atmosphere felt different. Despite the exhaustion on everyone's faces, people smiled at one another. Nurses comforted frightened children with gentle patience. Volunteers handed blankets to families waiting through the night. Elderly patients greeted staff members by name. There was an invisible warmth that no financial report could ever measure. As Nathan quietly walked through the corridors, expecting to discover waste and disorder, he instead noticed countless small acts of kindness. A janitor carefully adjusted an elderly patient's blanket before continuing his work. A receptionist paid for a poor mother's lunch without asking for recognition. 2 nurses stayed beyond the end of their shift simply because a frightened child refused to sleep unless they remained nearby. None of these actions appeared in spreadsheets. None generated profit. Yet each one created something priceless. Then Nathan reached the oncology wing. The hallway was unusually silent. Through an open doorway he saw a young female doctor sitting beside an elderly woman whose fragile hands trembled with age. The doctor still wore her white coat, but her shoulders shook as tears streamed down her face. Instead of trying to appear strong, she allowed herself to cry with the woman she had been treating for months. The elderly woman gently held the doctor's hand as if comforting her instead. Nathan remained frozen outside the room. He later learned the doctor's name was Dr. Amelia Carter, 38 years old, one of the hospital's most respected physicians. She had earned prestigious scholarships, received offers from luxury private hospitals, and could have built an extraordinarily wealthy career elsewhere. Instead, she chose to remain in this aging community hospital because she believed poor patients deserved the same dignity as the wealthy. Many colleagues considered her too emotional for modern medicine because she remembered birthdays, attended patients' funerals, visited lonely seniors on weekends, and often paid for medications from her own salary. The elderly woman was Margaret Ellis, 82 years old. She had no surviving children, no close relatives, and almost no savings. For months Dr. Amelia had quietly ensured Margaret received treatment despite overwhelming financial obstacles. Hospital staff often discovered Amelia skipping meals because she had spent her own money buying groceries for patients who otherwise would have gone hungry after discharge. Nathan could not stop watching. He expected professionalism. He expected emotional distance. Instead, he witnessed genuine humanity. Margaret had just received devastating news that her illness could no longer be cured. Rather than offering empty promises, Amelia simply sat beside her, sharing the unbearable weight of reality. Their tears represented something rare in a world obsessed with efficiency. They proved that compassion sometimes means staying present even when nothing can be fixed. For reasons Nathan himself could not explain, his chest tightened painfully. He remembered his own mother spending her final weeks in a hospital years before. Back then he had missed several visits because of important business meetings. He had convinced himself success would make her proud. Instead, she died with only nurses holding her hand. Nathan had buried that guilt beneath decades of work, but watching Amelia cry with Margaret forced every forgotten memory back into his heart. Instead of introducing himself, Nathan quietly walked away. Over the next several days he continued observing the hospital anonymously. Everywhere he looked he found Amelia serving others beyond every job description. She comforted frightened children, encouraged exhausted nurses, visited lonely patients after her shift ended, and personally checked on elderly people living alone after discharge. She never sought praise. In fact, most people never realized how many sacrifices she made because she preferred working quietly in the background. Nathan also discovered heartbreaking truths. Many staff members accepted lower salaries because they believed in the hospital's mission. Volunteers repaired broken furniture during weekends. Local restaurants donated meals. Nurses organized secret collections to help patients buy medications. This hospital survived not because of financial success but because ordinary people refused to abandon one another. One evening Nathan followed Amelia after work from a respectful distance. She did not drive to an expensive neighborhood. Instead, she stopped at a small grocery store, purchased basic food supplies, and delivered them to an elderly widower recovering from surgery. She repaired his leaking kitchen faucet before leaving. Next she visited a disabled former teacher who could no longer read medicine labels clearly. Amelia organized every medication by color and time of day before quietly returning home well after dark. Nathan realized something extraordinary. The woman who had every reason to chase prestige had chosen service instead. For the first time in years, Nathan questioned everything he believed about success. His growing admiration slowly became something much deeper. It wasn't her beauty alone, though she possessed a gentle grace that brightened every room. It wasn't her intelligence, though everyone respected her medical expertise. Nathan fell in love because Amelia treated every human being as if their life possessed infinite value regardless of wealth, status, or influence. Yet Nathan feared revealing his identity. Would she despise him after learning he was the CEO responsible for demanding impossible financial targets? Would she blame him for forcing hospitals to choose budgets over compassion? Those questions haunted him. Eventually Nathan requested a private meeting. When Amelia entered the conference room and recognized the mysterious visitor as the company's CEO, surprise filled her face. Nathan expected fear or admiration. Instead, she remained calm. He admitted he had witnessed her comforting Margaret. He confessed that moment had changed him. Then he did something no executive had ever seen him do. He apologized. He apologized for reducing hospitals to financial reports. He apologized for rewarding efficiency while overlooking compassion. He admitted he had forgotten why hospitals existed in the first place. Amelia listened quietly. She explained that medicine could not always save lives, but kindness could always preserve dignity. Patients remembered compassion long after treatments ended. Families remembered who held their hands during impossible moments. Healing wasn't measured only by survival but also by how people felt while facing their darkest days. Nathan left the meeting transformed. Within weeks, sweeping changes began across every hospital in his organization. Financial targets remained important, but patient dignity became equally essential. Employee wellness programs expanded. Community outreach funding increased dramatically. Special assistance funds ensured poor patients could receive life-saving medications. Compassion training became mandatory alongside medical education. Staff members who demonstrated extraordinary kindness received recognition equal to those achieving outstanding clinical results. Other executives questioned the expensive reforms. Nathan answered with simple words. A hospital that forgets humanity stops being a hospital. Months later, Margaret peacefully passed away. Her funeral was unexpectedly crowded. Doctors, nurses, cleaners, volunteers, former patients, neighbors, and even executives attended. Each person carried memories of quiet kindness she had witnessed or received. Nathan stood silently beside Amelia throughout the service, realizing wealth could build magnificent buildings but only love filled them with meaning. As seasons passed, Nathan and Amelia continued working together. Their relationship grew slowly through shared purpose rather than grand romance. They visited hospitals together, listened to struggling families, celebrated recovering patients, and comforted grieving relatives. Nathan discovered genuine happiness not inside luxurious boardrooms but beside ordinary people whose courage inspired him every day. Years later, journalists praised the remarkable transformation of Nathan's healthcare organization. Patient satisfaction reached historic levels. Employee retention improved dramatically. Communities trusted the hospitals more than ever before. Many reporters searched for complex business strategies behind the success. Few realized everything began with one unforgettable moment. A CEO walked into a hospital expecting to expose failure. Instead, he found a doctor crying beside a lonely elderly woman. Those tears accomplished what years of business education never could. They reminded one powerful man that compassion is never weakness. It is the strongest force capable of changing hearts, rebuilding broken lives, and inspiring hope where none seemed possible. Before we finish, if this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with your family and friends, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Every interaction helps spread stories that remind the world kindness still exists. And before you go, we have one special request. Please comment below with the words, "Kindness changes everything," if you believe one act of compassion can completely transform someone's life. We'd love to read your thoughts and hear how kindness has touched your own journey. Sometimes the greatest miracles do not happen inside operating rooms or boardrooms. They happen when one human heart chooses to care for another without expecting anything in return. And perhaps that is the richest kind of love the world will ever know.